I raised both of my children mostly on my own. Their bio father was hooked and took too much when they were very young. However, from 2010 to 2013, I was married to my now ex-husband, Josh. I didn't realize until after we got married what kind of person he was. He was nice to the kids, sure, but he was grumpy and emotionally distant all the time to me. Then he cheated on me, so that was the nail in the coffin. We got officially divorced, and within 2 months he was living with the woman he cheated with. They now have a kid together, and she's 5 months pregnant. My daughter was 11 when we got together, 14 when we broke up, now 24. She kept in semi-contact with Josh, and then when she was in late high school, we had some problems between the two of us, and she got even closer. I do not interfere with her relationship with Josh and his wife. I just don't want to hear about it. I know that they have done a few birthday dinners for her over the years, and a small engagement party with members of their family, but she doesn't really talk about it, and I don't ask. But she's never expected me to be in the same room with my ex. For her wedding, I'm giving her $15,000. Her college was $15,000 cheaper than her brother's, so I'd been telling her for years that I'd be giving her the $15,000 difference for her wedding. She has her own money as well. She sat me down and told me that she wanted Josh and his side to be invited to the wedding. Not just Josh and his wife, but their kids and other members of his family. She even wanted him to do a reading at the ceremony. I felt like I'd been slapped in the face. I can't imagine what kind of reading he'd even do. I said I wasn't comfortable with that, and I was paying. And she said I was going to have to deal with it. Things got heated, and I told her that I'd raised her for years and deserved better than this. And she told me again to take it or leave it. I truly am considering skipping the wedding. I don't have much family, so the idea of it being me and a few others while Josh and his larger family sits behind us just seems awful. My son called her yesterday to try to talk her out of it, and he said he thinks she's getting money from Josh. I feel so betrayed and hurt. Not the a-hole. She shouldn't take the $15,000 if she's going to disrespect you like that. These comments aren't very fair in my opinion. She knows you never want to see him, so she kind of chose him over you in a way. She decided that you would either sit through it miserably or skip on it, which is pretty ducked. If it's so important to her that they come, she shouldn't have accepted the $15,000. Not the a-hole. She can have him there if she wants. That's her right. But it's also your right not to attend the wedding if it's going to cause you mental harm. He had a relationship with OP for 3 years, but seems that he has been a stepfather for OP's daughter for 13 years. He cheated on OP and their relationship doesn't work. But it seems that he has been a good father figure for OP's daughter for years and has been there for her during difficult times. She is not asking for a stranger in her wedding. She's asking for the only father figure she's ever had and a person she had an active and strong relationship with. My 22 female stepfather, 47 male, is a tradesman, and he drives a large enclosed-back ute to fit all his tools and parts in. He drives to anywhere between 2 to 5 jobs a day, depending on the length and complexity of the job, so a portion of each workday is spent on the road. The problem is that he doesn't drive safe. He's in a rush and booking jobs, so he ends up with multiple fines a year, speeding, running a red light, talking on his phone while driving, etc. He wore the demerit points on his license down to only 4 a year or 2 ago, and has been making my mother and grandmother take the fall for his subsequent fines. Both of them are now low on demerits, endangering their licenses too. I've only just graduated from P2s to my full license, and he's demanding I start letting him pin his fines on me too. I told him I don't want to, that it's going to affect my insurance rates pretty badly, as I'm considered to be in the young and irresponsible range. But he got really angry at me and said I was being ungrateful, that after all he had done for me, it was the least I could do for him. I told him I would think about it, and my mother texted me that night to tell me she's disappointed in me, that I'm putting his job and their livelihood at risk with my selfishness. My boyfriend told me to stick to my guns and not let them take advantage of me, but they've always had a way of making me feel like a bad person if I stand up for myself, and now I'm worried I'm being a selfish and unreasonable brat. Am I the a-hole? Edit. There's some confusion on how the transferring of demerit points is possible. I'm in Australia, as most of our driving-related fines come through red light and checkpoint cameras. When that happens, they send the fine to the registered driver of the vehicle, and if they weren't driving at that time, it's possible to transfer the fine and demerits to the person who was. I think it involves signing a statutory declaration, but as I've never done it, I'm not 100% sure of the process. The times he was caught on his phone was in person, so he had to eat the points on those occasions. He mostly uses hands-free now, but I know he had a close call a couple of months ago, so clearly not all the time. I pretty quickly became overwhelmed with the support and encouragement you all gave me last night. Thank you, truly. And talked the situation through some more with my boyfriend. The more he asked, the more I began to realize the extent of the manipulation, lies, gaslighting, and aggression I've been through with my parents, well beyond just this situation. I broke down and bawled for far too long, and have woken up this morning both heartbroken and determined to heal. I plan to put my foot down and say no, sever the last couple of ties they have to me, make sure I'm covered legally, and go no contact. I don't even think it's going to be too hard, as their way to punish me when they're angry at me, and they'll be fuming when I officially say no, is to shut me out and give me the silent treatment with the expectation I'll come crawling back, apologizing, and begging them to forgive me. Pride will never, ever let them contact me first. So I guess that's it. Like I said, heartbroken and feeling lost and lonely. But no more than they made me feel, even with them. Oh, hell no. Not only is it wrong to risk your insurance and driver's license, it's illegal. Anyone who A, asks you to do something illegal, and B, guilt trips you, needs to be politely ignored if you can't confront them. You are doing the right thing. He is an a-hole for A, driving dangerously, and B, asking others to cover him, not the a-hole. Text right back and say you are saving her text, and that if anything gets pinned to you, you will take the conversation to the police and show it. This is the hill to die on, believe me. Not the a-hole. Stick to your guns and keep an eye on your insurance and ID at all times. If he's willing to ask you to perpetrate fraud, he's willing to perpetrate fraud on you. Time to move your personal papers out of the house to a secure location he can't access, and keep a close eye on your credit rating. Freezing your credit is a good idea. It's not just insurance expenses. This is a record that can follow you for years and have a cascade of impacts. Your mom is a terrible enabler. If she's so anxious to let him commit fraud, he can pin these fines on her. My, male 37, father, male 64, has spent the last 4.5 years demanding that my sister, female 35, and I take a DNA test to determine whether or not he's truly our father, which we refuse to do. We are children of divorce, our mother, female 64, having kicked our father out for, reportedly, repeated lies and financial mismanagement when we were about 6 and 4. After that, he became an uncle dad to us. At no point did anyone, including our father, ever suggest or state that we were not really his kids. He never treated us as if he thought we weren't his. He told us how much he loved us and how proud he was of us as much as possible. My sister did have a falling out with him when she turned 30 and hasn't been on speaking terms with him since. Even then, he never said she wasn't his daughter. 2 weeks after I turned 33, as he was preparing to get married to his second wife, female 62, he told us out of the blue that he had arranged for us to get our DNA tested to determine whether or not we were really his children. He said he still loved us, but he had reason to doubt, and he just wanted the truth. My sister, living in a faraway state, never even considered it. I still lived close to him, saw him and his fiancée regularly, and had a friendly relationship with him, made possible by our shared interest and my instinct towards conflict avoidance. I had my cheek swabbed by the lab. I then reconsidered the full implications of this, mainly because of the dispersions it would cast on my mother, and went back and had it taken back and revoked my consent. Those were my most shameful and proudest moments. He did not take that well, of course. In response, he moved to another state with his wife, having angry back and forths with me via email and leaving behind his aging parents for their other children to care for. My grandmother, female 85, has cancer, and my grandfather, male 87, is increasingly senile. In his forgetfulness, he has continued to reach out to his oldest son, who has responded with invective and delusions, including speculations that my grandfather, his brother, or a gay man my mother was friends with and was emmed back in the 80s, could be his children's real father. He is obsessed with his parents' will. They are wealthy, and in his latest message to him, said that he'd come visit his ailing father only if he told my sister and me to get the DNA test done or be written out of the inheritance, which he already is. I realize all of this doesn't really paint me as being an a-hole, but my uncle, one of the accused, has encouraged me to go ahead and do it. I realize all of this doesn't really paint me as being an a-hole, but my uncle, one of the accused, has encouraged me to go ahead and do it. That way we can throw the doubtless positive results in his face and get this madness to stop. I don't think that would do anything though, but show that I'll give in to my father's demands and feed his delusions, which have grown too deeply rooted to stop. Am I wrong though? Should I just do it and try to put an end to this family rift? Am I the a-hole? His fiancée is driving this, and I'm sure it has to do with money, unless he's developing dementia too. If you have no reason to doubt he's your father, continue to refuse to do it. There will be no end to his ridiculous demands if you give in to this. Not the a-hole. You have no obligation to submit to a medical test to satisfy your father's delusions. You and your sister are both grown. There is no need to test now. I would be insulted and so hurt if my father acted this way. Sorry that your dad kinda sucks. You are perfectly entitled to say no. Not the a-hole. Your father sounds unbalanced and delusional. You aren't obligated to feed into the crazy. It could be a mental illness or something physical like dementia. You don't owe him anything. Just stop indulging in this fantasy world of his. At the very least, you can admit that a DNA test at this point in life is meaningless and useless. Imagine accusing your father and brother of getting your wife pregnant, twice. Pretty much what the title says. I was a groomsman at my good buddy's wedding this past weekend. The ceremony and the reception were both lovely. The couple is happy. The issue lies in the fact that the bride caught me chatting over text with her new husband's ex-girlfriend. The context here is that me and the groom and his ex were all in the same university friend group, and they had dated for 2 years before he broke up with her unexpectedly, because he basically left her for his now wife. His ex was pretty devastated and didn't handle it in the best way possible, but that was 4 years ago. She's moved on, although she is now single, but dating around and building her career and is happy. She hardly ever brings him up anymore. Her and I stayed friends. We were friends before they dated, and we're friends now. That hasn't changed. We chat regularly. She knew about the wedding, and obviously she was not invited. The bride really hates her. But the coming days before, she sent me a name and it sparked a conversation over text, and we texted back and forth. We didn't talk about the wedding at all. The bride saw my phone light up with a notification from her at the rehearsal dinner and got very, very upset. She said that I was disrespecting the wedding and the couple's relationship by engaging with the groom's ex that weekend. Truth be told, the bride hates the ex so much that she tried to insist that I stop talking to her if I want to be in the wedding. But thankfully the groom talked some sense into her. Anyways, she kept being mad, was in a sour mood at the reception, and said I ruined the mood of the wedding being distracted with the ex. She complained to the groom, but he could not have given less of a crap. I truly do not understand how this is an issue. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. Look in a dictionary for the definition of insecurity, and you will probably find a picture of the bride next to it. Damn! She's always been weirdly insecure about the ex. Forbade the groom from going to the same parties where the ex would be at when they were dating and all, which I never quite understood, given that the groom left the ex to be with her. But I've always stayed out of that business until now. I will not break ties with a good friend of almost 10 years over this, though. Not the a-hole. It sounds like the bride has some serious insecurity and jealousy issues. It's been 4 years, and she's still so upset that the idea that you're friends with the ex ruins her wedding? That's insane. Not the a-hole. She is your friend and you have the right to talk to her. The bride has no right to forbid anyone from talking to her. Just out of curiosity, but your friend cheated on the ex with his wife? I suspect that he did, although he's always denied it and been very coy about the circumstances of how they got together. All I know is that he dumped his ex very suddenly, with nothing leading up to the decision. Just the words, "I don't love you anymore and I want to be with someone else." And the ex took it very poorly. But I always empathized with her, to be dumped like that after a 2-year relationship. In the first year since the breakup, she would get drunk and send him drunk texts and calls and such like, and other embarrassing things. But she has moved on since then. I've known her for almost 10 years. She's a good person. She reacted to the news of their engagement with grace and dignity. But the bride can't really get over her drunk texts and calls and trying to get him back all those years ago. Hence, she hates her. I, 39 male, was previously married to Aya, 33 female. We have 2 daughters together, 6 female and 5 female. We've been divorced for 4 years. Our custody arrangement is that I have them every other weekend and one night during the week. The one night varies every week depending on our schedules, as we both work in a hospital. My fiancée, Faith, 42 female, had a miscarriage last week. The miscarriage has been difficult on both of us, but Faith has really struggled. Sadly, it is something I've been through several times with Aya. I was due to have the girls at the weekend from Friday to Sunday. However, Thursday night it was clear that Faith wasn't in the right headspace mentally to have the girls around. I called Aya to rearrange with her so I could have them next weekend. Aya was annoyed when I called her to rearrange. We had rearranged my weekend once already, as I was called into work due to it being short-staffed. This was meant to be my rearranged weekend. She had plans already for the weekend. She and her boyfriend, Sam, 46 male, had booked a weekend away. He'd booked a weekend away for them due to her being so run down from work. She works in an emergency department. Between that and having our girls, that doesn't leave her much time to do anything for herself. She told me that I needed to take them because she was going away. I told her that I was really sorry, but that I didn't think it was a good environment for the girls to be around Faith while she was coming to terms with the miscarriage, but that it also wasn't good for Faith to have them around. Aya told me that she wasn't canceling her plans for me and that she needed to put herself first for once. On Friday, I didn't pick up the girls as normal. When Aya called to find out where I was, I told her that to protect Faith's mental health, we couldn't have the girls. Aya told me that if I wasn't at her place in the next 30 minutes, then she was going to see her lawyer first thing on Monday to go for full custody. This is the second time since we have split that I've asked her to rearrange a weekend. I did pick up the girls in the end, but Faith really struggled having the girls at our house, and come Saturday afternoon, she went to stay at a friend's because she found it overwhelming. Aya messaged me this morning saying the girls had been upset that the weekend didn't feel like a normal fun weekend at my place. She also asked if I was still taking them in the week, or if I was going to cancel again. Am I the a-hole for asking to rearrange a weekend with my girls so that I could look after my fiancé? Edit. I don't have any family who could take the girls. My sister lives on the other side of the world. The only family Aya has is her aunt, who does the school drop-off and pick-up for us, but isn't available on the weekend. You're the a-hole, you're the a-hole, you're the a-hole. Where's Daddy? He never came to pick us up. Asking was okay. Not showing up to pick up your children when it was your responsibility is not. You don't get to just flake on parenting because you suddenly have other more important priorities. Your kids are old enough now to remember your new wife is now more important than they are. She's probably going to get full custody, and then you can arrange to see them whenever you don't have anything else going on. Yes, you're the a-hole. Your children are in fact your children. They're not Aya's children who you babysit occasionally when it's convenient for you. You don't get to pick and choose your obligations to them. It's great you wanted to protect Faith's mental health, but you cannot do it at the expense of your kids, or just expect Aya to pick up the slack. You needed to make an arrangement for Faith to stay elsewhere, or for you to take the kids elsewhere if you felt she couldn't be around them. You don't get to just not show up after being explicitly told Aya couldn't rearrange. And if you spent the weekend making the kids feel like a burden, or they did something wrong just by being there, then you really, really suck. You're the a-hole. You had already rescheduled this weekend once, and you knew your ex had plans. Your fiancé's miscarriage is tough, of course, and I understand why you wanted to make her weekend easier, but that can't be at the expense of your kids. They deserve to be able to count on seeing their father regularly, even in the rough times. Asking was fine. Not taking no for an answer, and not picking up your kids at the agreed-on time makes you a huge a-hole.